Every one of us, when letting a woman into our life, has at some point been burned by a thought as simple and destructive as a hammer blow. What about before me? This question is poison. Ask it directly, and you've already lost. You'll either get a socially acceptable lie that calms you but isn't the truth, or you'll hear a truth that wounds you and makes you look like a jealous fool. Either way, you show your weakness, your insecurity. You go from being a strong man choosing a partner to a weak boy afraid of comparison. It's a road to nowhere. The great explorers of the human soul, from Freud to Jung, taught us one fundamental principle. The most important truths never lie on the surface. They are hidden in slips of the tongue, in stories, in spontaneous reactions, in what a person considers normal. A person's true essence isn't in what they say under direct questioning, but in how they describe the world around them. Her past isn't a list of facts. It's the filter through which she views the present. That's why a smart man doesn't ask. He creates conditions where the woman willingly lays out the entire map of her soul on the table for him. She thinks it's just a pleasant conversation. But you, in that moment, are conducting a deep scan. You are not an interrogator. You are a diagnostician. Your tool is not the club of a direct question, but the scalpel of an indirect one. Today, I'm giving you 10 of these scalpels. 10 innocent questions that will reveal her past, her values, her attitude towards men, and her psychological traumas better than any lie detector. She will tell you everything herself, without ever suspecting she's in the most important interview of her life. But before we begin this special operation, I need your support. If you believe this mature, deep approach is what modern men are missing, hit the like button on this video right now. And if you're new here and not afraid to face the truth, be sure to subscribe, because there are no superficial topics on this channel. And before we start, I'm very interested in our geography. It helps to understand how wide our audience of thinking men is. Please write in the comments what city you're from. I'll be grateful to everyone who responds. Question 1. What's the craziest thing you've ever done for love? This is your opening gambit. The question sounds light, romantic, and even flatters her, hinting at her passionate nature. But in reality, it's a powerful psychological test that reveals several layers of her personality at once. You're not asking about the number of partners. You're asking about the quality of her emotions, about what she considers normal versus the peak of passion. And your task here is to listen not to the story itself, but to what lies behind it. What exactly are we scanning for here? First, her tendency for drama. Second, her personal boundaries and level of self-respect. Third, her true definition of the word love. For one woman, love is creation. For another, it's self-destruction. And this question, like a litmus test, will reveal her true chemical composition. Let's break down the signals you might receive and how to interpret them. Green flags, or signals of a healthy psyche. The answer from a healthy, emotionally stable woman will carry an energy of positive impulse, not destruction. It might be a story of spontaneity, of sacrifice, but not self-annihilation. For example, she might tell you how she once spent her last money on a ticket to fly to another city just to see her beloved for a day. What do you hear in this story? You hear that she values the relationship more than material comfort. You see courage, decisiveness, and romanticism. This is an act for someone, not in spite of something. It harmed no one, didn't humiliate her, and didn't destroy anyone's life. It's a creative, crazy act. Or she might recall quitting a boring but stable job to move in with a man she believed in and start from scratch. This speaks to her ability to take risks for a relationship, her trust in her partner, and the fact that she places emotional connection above social status. The key marker of a healthy answer is that the story leaves a positive aftertaste. It's a story about the strength of her feelings, not the weakness of her character. Now for the red flags, or markers of toxicity. and instability. If her crazy act involves aggression, revenge, violating someone else's boundaries, or public humiliation, this is a direct alarm signal. Imagine she laughingly tells you how she once keyed an ex's car out of jealousy or caused a scene at his workplace. She might frame it as a sign of her fiery passion, but you should hear something else. You should hear, "I can't control my emotions. I am vengeful. I think it's normal to solve problems through aggression and destruction." Another dangerous version involves stories of self-destruction. For example, she tells you how she didn't eat or sleep for weeks, stalked a man who left her, or begged him on her knees to come back. This isn't about love. This is about obsession and a complete lack of self-respect. A woman who doesn't value herself won't be able to truly value you. She will be looking for a savior in you, not a partner, someone to fill her inner emptiness. This is a path to a codependent and draining relationship. Pay special attention to how she tells the story. If she recalls her destructive actions with pride, it means she's learned nothing. She still believes such behavior is normal, even a badge of honor. If, however, she talks about it with a hint of irony and self-criticism, saying something like, "I realize now how foolish I was. That's better." It shows she's capable of reflection and analyzing her mistakes. But the very fact that such a story exists in her biography is already important information for you. And finally, what if she says she's never done anything crazy for love? This is also an extremely important diagnostic sign. It could mean a few things. Perhaps you're dealing with a very cautious, rational person who is afraid of strong emotions and never lets her guard down. With such a woman, you're unlikely to experience a whirlwind of passion, but you might build a very stable and predictable relationship. Alternatively, it could mean she's simply never been truly in love, never allowed herself to open up completely. This is neither good nor bad, but it gives you an understanding of her emotional temperature. You'll know that her heart is a fortress, and conquering it will require a long, patient siege. Not a quick assault. Thus, just one beautifully packaged question gives you an invaluable array of data. You get an idea of her emotional range, her value system, and her relationship with herself and her partners. You see whether for her, love is a flight or a fall. And based on this knowledge, you can already draw your first conclusions about whether you and this person are on the same path. Question 2. How long was your longest relationship? And why did it end? This question is the logical follow-up to the first. If the first question scanned the peaks of her emotional states, this one tests her ability to run a marathon, her capacity for long-term, stable connections. It consists of 2 parts, and each carries a colossal weight of meaning. The first part, about duration, is statistics. The second, about the reason, is philosophy. And it's the combination of the two that gives you an almost X-ray view of her behavioral patterns and relationships. Let's start with the number. The length of her longest relationship means little without the context of her age. For a 20-year-old, a year is an eternity. For a 40-year-old woman, a year is a brief fling. So, always compare. If by the age of 40, her record is a year and a half or 2 years, that's a serious reason to think. It suggests either that she's terrified of intimacy and runs away as soon as things get serious, or that she systematically chooses the wrong men. Both are red flags for a man seeking stability. Conversely, if she has a history of long relationships, 5, 10, 15 years, maybe even a marriage, that's a good sign. It shows that she is, in principle, capable of long-term unions. She knows what daily life, compromises, and overcoming difficulties together are all about. She won't run away after the first fight over unwashed dishes. But here, the real essence lies in the second part of the question. Why did it end? And this is where it gets interesting. Her answer to this question is an indicator of her psychological maturity. Your task is to determine what role she assigns herself in this story of her life, the role of a victim or a participant. If you hear a story in which her ex-partner is portrayed as absolute evil and she is an innocent lamb, that's a bad sign. Phrases like, "He didn't appreciate me," "He turned out to be someone different," "He ruined everything," are markers of an infantile position. A person who can't see their own contribution to a breakup will repeat the same mistakes over and over. And next time, you'll be the one cast as the monster. A healthy answer will always contain a degree of responsibility. Look for phrases like, "We grew apart," "We ended up having different goals in life," "I was wrong too," "I was too demanding," or "We both tried, but we couldn't make it work." This shows that the person is capable of self-analysis. She understands that her relationship is a dance for two, and if the music stops, it's not just the DJ's fault. Such a woman is more likely to be capable of constructive dialogue in your relationship as well. Asterisk. A special case is if the reason for the breakup was cheating. Here, listen carefully to who cheated on whom. If he cheated, look at her reaction. Is there still the poison of resentment and hatred in her voice? If so, the wound hasn't healed, and this pain will be an invisible presence in your relationship, projected onto you. But if she speaks about it calmly, as a fact of life that helped her understand something about herself and life, it's a sign of a person who has done the inner work. If she admits that she was the one who cheated, this requires even deeper analysis. Don't be quick to judge. What matters is why it happened and how she herself views it. It's one thing if it was a cowardly way to end a dead relationship and she regrets it. It's quite another if she talks about it like an exciting adventure, showing no remorse. In the second case, you're dealing with a person for whom fidelity is not a value, and you need to understand that clearly. So, by analyzing the answer to this seemingly simple question, you get a picture of her capacity for long-term commitment and, more importantly, her willingness to take responsibility for her life. You see whether she looks for the cause of failure within herself or always finds someone else to blame. And that is one of the key qualities that distinguishes an adult from an eternal child. Question 3. Do you believe in friendship between men and women? This question is your probe for checking her boundaries, loyalty, and the potential existence of a backup plan. In the modern world, this topic is extremely blurred, and it's in these murky waters that the biggest risks often hide. Her answer to this question will show you how much her coordinate system aligns with yours, and whether there are people in her circle who could become a problem in the future. Let's look at the three main types of answers and what's behind them. The first, and most alarming for a man seeking a serious relationship, is an enthusiastic, "Yes, of course. Almost all my friends are men." This is often presented as a sign of her being easygoing, not complicated, and not like all those other women with their drama. But to an experienced man, it sounds different. It can mean that she constantly needs male attention and approval, that she flirts, consciously or not, with everyone around her, and that each of these friends is either an ex with whom emotional ties haven't been fully severed, or a potential future partner just waiting for his turn. If she answers this way, don't jump to conclusions, but you need to dig deeper. Ask clarifying questions. How did your ex feel about your male friends? Are these friends in relationships? If she says her ex was always jealous for no reason, and her friends are all single, the picture becomes almost crystal clear. Her friends are her insurance policy, her support group, always ready to comfort her when problems arise in her main relationship. Are you ready for the fact that in your couple, there will always be an invisible third, fourth, and fifth wheel? The second type of answer is a categorical, "No, I don't believe in it." Sooner or later, one of them will want something more. At first glance, This is the perfect answer for a possessive man. It suggests she understands the nature of things, has no illusions, and will likely not give you reasons to be jealous. It's a sign that she values exclusivity in a relationship and is ready to set clear boundaries. She won't be spending evenings at a bar with just a friend and won't be sharing intimate details of your life with him. However, there's a nuance here too. Sometimes such a categorical stance can be the result of her own or someone else's painful trauma. Perhaps a friend betrayed her in the past, or she herself was in love with a friend who rejected her. This could indicate a tendency toward jealousy and a desire for total control. She might demand that you completely cut off communication with your female friends, even if it's purely professional or casual. Here, it's important to sense the intonation. Is it calm confidence or bitterness toward the whole world? And finally, the third, most mature and adequate answer. I believe it's possible, but under certain conditions and with very clear boundaries. A woman who answers this way demonstrates flexible thinking and life experience. She understands that it all depends on the people and circumstances. She probably won't throw a fit over a female colleague, but she also won't let her own friend call her at midnight to cry on her shoulder. Asterisk. If she gives such an answer, ask her to elaborate. And what are those conditions? And listen. Mature markers include the friend being the partner of her girlfriend or a mutual friend of yours. When communication happens mostly during the day and doesn't touch on intimate topics. When there are no ambiguous jokes or inappropriate touching. If her understanding of boundaries aligns with yours, that's an excellent sign. It means you're dealing with a person who respects both herself and her partner, and is capable of building healthy social connections without creating threats to your relationship. Thus, this question isn't about her friends. It's about her loyalty, about her understanding of devotion, about her ability to be in a couple, not just physically, but mentally as well. It shows whether your bond will be an exclusive territory for two, or a public courtyard where every friend feels entitled to a key. Question 4. What is one quality in a man you could never forgive? This is a direct shot into the center of her emotional matrix. If the previous questions were reconnaissance, this one is the work of a sniper. You are aiming directly at her past pain. The answer to this question isn't just her opinion or preference. With 99% certainty, it is the crystallized experience of her most painful relationship trauma. Whatever she names is exactly what a man once did to her, and what she fears more than anything in the world. Your task here is to listen and connect the dots. Her answer is the instruction manual for her soul, as well as the safety guidelines. Without realizing it, she's handing you the key to her deepest fears. And at the same time, she's warning you about the minefield you could step on. Let's break down the most common answers and their true meaning. If she says betrayal or lying, this is the most common answer. But it's too general. You need to get more specific. Ask gently, and what does betrayal mean to you? Is it just cheating or something more? For one woman, betrayal is physical infidelity. For another, it's a man not standing up for her in an argument with his mother. For a third, it's him hiding his debts. The more specific her definition, the more accurately you'll understand where her point of pain was. This will show you what the foundation of trust is for her. If she answers weakness or irresponsibility, that's a very important signal. Most likely, she had a man in her past whom she couldn't rely on. Perhaps an infantile partner she had to mother, or even her own father. Such a woman is looking for a rock, a pillar of support in a man. She won't tolerate a whiner or someone who avoids making decisions. If you're not a natural leader and prefer to be led, you'll have a very hard time with her. Her answer is a direct request for masculine strength and maturity. If her answer is greed or stinginess, It suggests she has likely faced financial humiliation in the past. Perhaps a man begrudged her every bite of food, demanded an account for every penny, or was just pathologically cheap. This doesn't always mean she's looking for a sponsor. Often, it means that for her, generosity isn't about money, but about the breadth of one's soul. She wants a man by her side who is capable of giving emotions, time, care. And financial generosity is just a marker for her. The visible tip of this iceberg dot, one of the most complex and profound answers you might hear, is indifference. If a woman names this quality specifically, know this: she has experienced emotional burnout next to a cold, distant partner. Her past pain is silence. It's the silence in response to her tears, the lack of support in difficult times. Such a woman will be hypersensitive to your emotional state. She will constantly need to feel your involvement, your interest, your care. She might forgive you an outburst of anger, but she will not forgive icy indifference. What should you do with this information? First, try it on for size. Is the quality she named something you possess? Be honest with yourself. If she can't forgive weakness, and you're going through a tough period in your life and need support, she might not be the best option for you right now. Second, remember it. This is her red button. Knowing about it, you can avoid pushing it by accident. This knowledge gives you the opportunity to be a more sensitive and attentive partner. But it also shows you her vulnerability. And how you handle that vulnerability, whether you use it for good or for ill, will define you as a man. Question 5. Tell me about the best trip you've ever taken. This question is the perfect way to disguise data collection as a pleasant, non-committal conversation. People love to reminisce about good times. When talking about travel, a person relaxes, becomes more open, and, without noticing, reveals a huge amount of information about their lifestyle, values, financial situation, and, of course, their past. You're not just listening to a story. You, as an experienced analyst, are paying attention to the details. Who, where, how, and on whose dime? The answers to these unspoken questions are your goal. Let's break down exactly what you need to pay attention to. The first marker is the company. Who was she with on her best trip? If she was with her girlfriends, it speaks to the importance of her female circle, of independence. If with her parents, it points to strong family ties. If she traveled alone, you're likely dealing with a strong, self-sufficient individual. But the most interesting option is if it was a trip with a man. Here, your task is to gently, without pressure, figure out who it was. She might say it herself. My ex and I went to ... Or she might use the impersonal, we. There's no need to pry. Just listen to her tone. Does she speak about it with warmth? With nostalgia? Or as a simple fact of her biography? This will show whether that chapter is closed for her. The second marker is the style of vacation. What does the best trip mean to her? Is it a 5-star, all-inclusive resort on the ocean? Or is it a camping trip in the mountains? Or perhaps a tour of European capitals, visiting all the museums? The answer to this question is a direct cross-section of her values. The first option speaks of a love for comfort, hedonism, and passive relaxation. The second, a love for nature, adventure, and a tolerance for basic conditions. The third, of intellect, curiosity, and a passion for culture. There's no right or wrong answer here. There's only an answer that aligns or doesn't align with your own lifestyle. If you love fishing in the woods, and her ideal is shopping in Milan, you'll find it difficult to find common ground. The third marker is the financial aspect. How does she describe the trip? Does she rave about the luxurious room with a sea view, the expensive restaurants, and spa treatments? Or does she proudly talk about how they manage to find cheap tickets, stay in modest apartments, and cook for themselves to spend more on experiences. This shows her attitude toward money. Is it an end in itself for her, or a tool? Is she seeking luxury or experiences? Again, compare this with your own mindset. If you're a frugal person, and she's used to luxury vacations paid for by someone else, this could become a source of serious conflict in the future. And the fourth, most subtle marker is the focus of her story. What does she emphasize? The beautiful places she saw? The delicious food she tried? Or the emotions and the people she was with? If her story is a dry list of landmarks, you're probably dealing with a more rational person. But if she ecstatically describes a sunset they watched from a mountaintop, or a heartfelt conversation with a stranger in a small cafe, it speaks to her emotional nature, and that for her, experiences and human connections come first, not just a pretty picture. Thus, under the guise of innocent chatter about travel, you are conducting a comprehensive diagnostic. You learn about her past companions, her value system, her attitude toward money, and her emotional makeup. And all of this without a single direct question. She thinks she's sharing pleasant memories with you, but in reality, she's taking a compatibility test. Question 6. What do you think about women who ... This is the highest level of psychological diagnostics. You are using one of the most powerful mechanisms of the human psyche, discovered by Freud himself, the mechanism of projection. Its essence is simple. What we fiercely condemn, or conversely, enthusiastically approve of in others, is most often a reflection of our own hidden desires, fears, or qualities that we don't accept in ourselves. When a person talks about others, they are always talking about themselves. Your task is to simply insert the right type of person into the formula and listen. How does this work in practice? You choose a controversial female archetype and casually ask for her opinion. For example, hey, what do you think about women who build a career and have no family or kids by the time they're 40? Or, how do you feel about women who completely dissolve into their husbands and children, forgetting about themselves? Or, a more provocative option, what do you think about women who post revealing photos on social media? The key to analysis is not the answer itself, for or against, but the degree of its emotional charge. If her answer is calm and balanced, for example, well, that's their choice. I'm neutral about it. Everyone has their own path. It speaks to her inner harmony and acceptance. She doesn't see this archetype as a threat to herself, and this topic is likely not a painful one for her. Asterisk. But if you hear rage, contempt, or judgment in her voice, it's an almost 100% marker that you've hit a nerve. For example, if, in response to the question about career women, she launches into a tirade about how they are unhappy, lonely, masculine creatures, there are two possible explanations. Either she herself once bet on family, sacrificing her career, and now subconsciously envies their freedom and independence, devaluing their choice to justify her own. Or she is terrified of being alone and is trying to convince herself of the correctness of her own path. The same principle works in reverse. If, in response to the question about housewives, she speaks with contempt about stupid hens who degrade at the stove, it could mean that she is afraid of losing her independence, fears domesticity, and perhaps deep down, doesn't feel very confident in the role of a homemaker. Fierce denial is always the other side of a secret fear or desire. Admiration works on the same principle. If she speaks breathlessly about free-spirited female travelers who live for themselves, perhaps she herself lacks that freedom in her current life. If she admires women who have built business empires, she probably has unfulfilled ambitions. These are her hidden, suppressed dreams that she doesn't allow herself to pursue, but watches with delight in others. You can use this tool multiple times, substituting different archetypes. What do you think about women who live off men? What about those who have children for themselves? And those who forgive cheating? Every emotionally charged answer she gives will open a new door to her subconscious. She will think you are discussing abstract people, but in reality, she will be giving you a tour of her own soul, its darkest corners and its brightest but unrealized dreams. This is the safest way to learn about her internal conflicts without triggering her. Defense mechanisms. Question 7. How do you feel about your exes? If I had to choose only one question out of all 10, I would choose this one. It is the sharpest, most revealing, and most ruthless test of psychological maturity. A person's past is not what happened to them, but how they interpret it. And their attitude toward former partners is the essence of that interpretation. Her answer, like a drop of water, will reflect the entire ocean of her ability to love, forgive, take responsibility, and move on. There are almost no gray areas here. The answers usually fall into two polar opposite camps, and your job is to clearly identify which one she's in. The first camp is, they were all jerks. If you hear this song, know that you are in the presence of an eternal victim. This is a woman who is never, ever at fault. In her worldview, she is a beautiful princess who constantly ends up with dragons. One was greedy, another was a tyrant, a third was a mama's boy. They were all bad, and she was the only good one, but she wasn't appreciated. This is the most dangerous type of woman for a serious relationship. The issue isn't that she was unlucky with men. The issue is that she is incapable of reflection. She doesn't see her own contribution to the breakups. She doesn't ask herself, why do I keep choosing men like this? What is it in me that attracts them? A person who doesn't analyze their mistakes is doomed to repeat them. And if you start a relationship with her, rest assured, after some time, you will simply be added to her collection of jerks. Any problem, any conflict will be interpreted in one way. You are to blame. She is a victim of circumstances and your imperfection. The second camp, the camp of psychologically mature people, sounds completely different. Their answer will be balanced, calm, and generally respectful. Look for phrases like, we were different people, but I'm grateful to him for the experience. He's a good person. We just weren't right for each other. I wish him happiness. This doesn't mean she has to be friends with them or sing their praises, but the absence of hatred and venom in her words is the key marker. It shows that she was able to overcome the pain, learn from it, and emotionally close that door. Such a woman understands that it always takes two to break up. She is capable of admitting her own mistakes. She doesn't hold grudges because she understands that resentment is a poison that primarily harms herself. She has let go of the past and therefore has the resources to build a healthy future. With a woman like this, you won't constantly feel like you're in the shadow of her exes. She won't compare you to them and won't project her old grievances onto you. Also, pay attention to extremes. If she still speaks breathlessly about one of her exes, describing how incredible he was, that's also a warning sign. It means she is still emotionally in that relationship. She idealizes him, and you, a real man with your own flaws, will never be able to compete with that shining ghost from her past. Asterisk. So, by listening to her answer about her exes, you are essentially getting a glimpse into your potential future with her. You see how she will talk about you if your relationship ever ends. You see if she is capable of forgiveness, gratitude, and growth, or if her fate is to forever walk in circles of resentment, blaming the whole world for her misfortunes. And this insight is one of the most valuable you can get before investing your time, your emotions, and your life in a woman. This is the level of depth you will find in every one of my videos. We are not here to skate on the surface. We are here to get to the core. If this is the approach you've been looking for, now is the perfect time to subscribe. Become part of a community of men who value wisdom and experience. Question 8. What have your past mistakes in relationships taught you? This question is a logical continuation of the previous one, but it's even more precise. If the seventh question tested her overall emotional adequacy, this one tests a specific skill, the ability to self-analyze and learn. Life is a school, and relationships are one of its main subjects. A person who doesn't learn from their mistakes gets held back a grade, again and again. Your task is to understand what grade she's stuck in, if at all. This question puts her in the position of an expert on her own life. You are not accusing her, not judging her. You are respectfully asking her to share her wisdom. This is disarming and encourages honesty. And her answer will show you if she has any wisdom to share at all. The wrong or infantile answer is when she starts talking about others again. For example, my mistakes taught me not to trust men anymore. Or, I realized that all men are the same. Do you hear it? She's not talking about herself again. She's talking about the external world. This isn't a lesson learned. It's a psychological defense. She hasn't learned. She's just built a wall. Instead of figuring herself out, she's decided the problem is with everyone else. Growth is impossible with such a woman. She is rigid, fixated on her trauma, and incapable of growth. Another bad version is a superficial, cliched answer. Something like, well, you need to talk to each other more. This could just be a socially acceptable phrase with nothing behind it. To test this, you can gently probe. And in what specific situation did you realize that talking wasn't enough? If she struggles to answer or avoids it, it's likely that no real inner work has been done. The right, mature answer will always be focused on her. She will talk about her own actions, thoughts, and feelings. Look for the pronoun I in her answer. For example, I realized that I needed to set my boundaries more clearly. I realized I expected too much from my partner and gave too little in return. I learned not to stay silent about my feelings, but to talk about them right away before they turn into a snowball. I realized my jealousy was linked to my own insecurity, not his behavior. Do you hear the difference? There's depth in these answers. There's analysis. There's taking responsibility. A woman who can articulate her thoughts this way is a treasure. It means she sees problems not as the end of the world, but as tasks to be solved. She is capable of changing, growing, and developing with you. If a difficulty arises in your relationship, she won't look for someone to blame. She'll ask the question, what did we both do wrong, and how can we fix it? This is the foundation for building a truly partnered, adult relationship. This question also allows you to see if you're about to step on the same rake as your previous partner. If she says, I realized I can't live with someone who spends all their time at work, and you're a workaholic, that's a reason to seriously consider your compatibility. She is honestly warning you about what is critically important to her. Ignoring such signals means consciously planting a time bomb under the foundation of your future relationship. Ultimately, this question separates women who collect grievances from women who collect wisdom. And your choice will determine what your relationship will be filled with: endless scorekeeping or moving forward together. Question 9. How would your friends describe you in 3 words? This is another clever move that allows you to get an outside perspective on her, but through her own filter. You're not asking her directly, what are you like? You're asking her to see herself through the eyes of people close to her. This, first, gives you what seems to her a more objective picture, and second, it shows which of her qualities she herself considers important and worth mentioning. A person won't name characteristics they don't like. They will choose from the whole spectrum of opinions, the ones that flatter their ego and fit the image they want to project. And this choice is the most valuable thing for you. Asterisk. What should you pay attention to here? First of all, the words themselves. There's a set of standard, safe adjectives: kind, loyal, fun. This is a good basic set, but it says little about her individuality. It's like writing communicative, stress-resistant on a resume. It sounds right, but it's generic. It's much more interesting if she names something more specific, more characteristic. For example, reliable as a Swiss bank, or unpredictable or demanding. Such words paint a more vivid portrait. Reliable speaks of her fundamental nature. Unpredictable hints at a tendency for emotional swings. Demanding points to the high standards she sets for herself and others. These words are keys to her operating system. The second important aspect is how she presents these words. Does she say them with confidence and pride, or with some embarrassment and an apologetic smile? If she proudly says, "My friends think I'm a bitch," that's one thing. She cultivates this image and considers it her strength. But if she says it with a note of regret, that's another. She is aware of this trait, and perhaps it bothers her. This question also indirectly checks if she actually has these friends and the quality of her relationships with them. If she thinks for a long time and struggles to answer, it might mean she either has no close friends or isn't used to getting feedback from them. A woman without a female circle is a separate topic for consideration. Sometimes it's a sign of strong self-sufficiency, and other times of a difficult, confrontational character. Finally, you can go a bit further and ask, and how exactly does her unpredictability manifest? Can you give an example? Her illustrative story will be much more revealing than the word itself. She might tell a funny story about a spontaneous trip, or a story about how she ended a relationship in a fit of anger. And those would be two completely different kinds of unpredictability. In essence, you're giving her an assignment. Paint a self-portrait, but pretend someone else painted it. And the colors she chooses, the features she emphasizes, and the ones she blurs will tell you about her self-esteem, her true and desired qualities, and how she wants to appear in the eyes of others. And for a smart man, the difference between who a person is and who they want to seem to be is the most important source of information. Question 10. What's more important to you right now? Passion, or stability? This is your final chord. A question that calibrates her expectations and reveals her current life priorities. Her answer to it is her technical specification for a relationship. You need to clearly understand what kind of project she's inviting you into, the construction of a long-term home or a short but brilliant fireworks display. A mistake at this stage can cost you both dearly wasted time and broken hearts. This question is good because it has no socially correct answer. Any choice can be justified. Therefore, she will likely answer honestly, based on her inner state of here and now. Your task is not to judge her answer, but simply to compare it with your own goals. If she chooses passion, it says a lot. Perhaps she recently got out of a long, dull relationship where she lacked excitement and now wants to make up for lost time. Perhaps she is, by nature, a person who lives in the moment and is not inclined to long-term planning. She is looking for vivid impressions, romance, adrenaline. A relationship with such a woman can be unforgettable, but most likely not long-lasting. If you yourself are not looking for anything serious, your goals may align. But if you are aiming to create a family, a safe harbor, then her choice of passion is a red flag for you. She is simply on a different wavelength. If she chooses stability, that is also very informative. Most likely, she's done playing around. She is tired of emotional roller coasters, uncertainty, and drama. She is looking for reliability, predictability, and security for the future. She is ready for a serious adult relationship. For a man looking for the same thing, this is a green light. It means your fundamental needs align. However, there is a nuance here as well. Sometimes, the desire for stability can hide simple fatigue and a desire to find a convenient man who will solve all her problems. Therefore, it's important that her answer doesn't have notes of desperation or bargaining? Asterisk. And finally, the wisest and most mature answer you can hear is both. I'm looking for stable passion, or I want passion in a stable relationship. A woman who answers this way understands that one is incomplete without the other. Passion without stability is a fire that quickly burns everything to the ground. Stability without passion is a swamp where feelings slowly die out. The answer, both, says that she is not ready to compromise on what matters most. She is not just looking for a function, a lover, or a domestic partner. She is looking for a whole, harmonious relationship. She is mature enough to value reliability and vibrant enough not to forget about the fire. This is the portrait of an ideal partner for a long and happy union, not thus. This last question doesn't scan her past. It scans her future. It shows you in which direction she wants to move. And you can decide, right at the outset, if you're going the same way. This question saves you months, and sometimes years, of your life that you could have spent trying to build something that was doomed from the start due to a fundamental mismatch of goals. Conclusion. So, we've gone through 10 keys. 10 tools that allow you to transform from a passive observer into an active explorer. The purpose of this men's X-ray is not to judge a woman, to catch her in a lie, or to assert yourself at her expense. The purpose is to understand who is in front of you, to understand if your values, your goals, your fears, and your dreams align. A mature man is distinguished from a boy not by his age, but by the depth of his understanding. He knows that the most important things in life are not said out loud. They are read between the lines, in intonations, in stories, in what a person keeps silent about. By learning to ask the right, indirect questions, you gain access to a person's subconscious. You begin to see not the mask you are shown, but the true face. Stop being a judge who delivers a verdict. Become a detective who gathers clues, analyzes them, and puts together a complete, objective picture. Only with this picture in hand can you make the right decision, whether to let this person into your life or to politely say goodbye and move on. This skill to read people will save you the most important resource a man has, his time. And more importantly, it will protect your heart from mistakes that could have been avoided. And now, the main question for you, the wise and experienced men who form the core of this channel. I've given you 10 keys, but perhaps there is an 11th, the most important one, that I missed. What is the one most important question, in your opinion, that you should ask a woman to understand her essence? Share your wisdom and your experience in the comments. Let's gather here, under this video, the collective wisdom of our community.